Sam Pittman out at Arkansas. Hugh Freeze at Auburn. Yeah, he could be next.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest and craziest sport on planet Earth. BYU in the Big 12 title hunt. Some thoughts there after they scraped by Colorado. They made me look bad. Or did I jinx them? That's for BYU fans to decide. Some more thoughts on Alabama, the ACC, not in a great spot. This episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn is here after another Tigers loss. Bye week for Hugh Freeze to try and get ready and win a conference game. They haven't done that yet, and they faced Oklahoma and Texas A&M. And look, I don't think Auburn is a bad team, Zach. I really don't. I know I'm the biggest Auburn hater.
You're a big one. You're a big Auburn hater, for sure.
Ginormous Auburn hater. I don't think that Auburn is a bad team. I just think that it's year 3 and it's You know, like it's not terrible. It's just Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think the players on the roster, it should look better than just in year 3, 100%. I mean, you could say what you want about Auburn. Like, the talent is certainly there, but
yes,
there are questions you've got to start asking now. And I think folks outside of Auburn have been asking them for a while, and I think Auburn fans are starting to look around and be like, oh, maybe Jackson Arnold isn't that guy. Maybe him holding onto the football is truly an issue. Maybe Hugh Freeze's offense, like it hasn't really become what it's supposed to be up to this point. Or he can't pick the right quarterback. I mean, he's picked Peyton Thorne twice and he's picked Jackson Arnold. Like, could that be part of it? Regardless, you can't go 0 for 12 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down, on the road and win. I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, thank goodness for that return by Atkins to set up the 2-yard touchdown drive, the 2-yard run by Jackson Arnold, because you had a shot, Spencer. You had a shot with Auburn getting the ball twice with 4 minutes left to go in the game, and you didn't get a first down on either of those drives, on either of those attempts. One of the worst offensive performances I've seen, and like, I don't want to, make it sound like sour grapes, but like, I don't think A&M defensively is great by any stretch of the imagination. But they
Notre Dame put up a 40-piece on them last week.
Right.
The week before, whatever
2 weeks ago. Yeah, they had a bye week. So
yeah.
I just it was a matchup where I changed my pick towards the end of the week to Auburn because I think the matchups made sense. Because we all assumed Hugh Freeze would do what the right thing was for his football team. And that was, okay, let's do the thing Auburn's good at statistically against the thing that A&M is bad at statistically and run the football. And they're like, no, we're not going to do it. Spencer, a running back, didn't carry the football in the first quarter for Auburn.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I keep doing these little vents, and I keep thinking they'll make me feel better, and they just don't.
Yeah, I need to go back to something you said in there because everybody probably is wanting you to just double check and confirm. Did you say 0 for 12 on third down?
Not great. You and I converted as many third downs on Saturday.
Oh, that's not good because I could be wrong. I don't know what you were doing on Saturday, Zach. Neither of us were playing in a football game on Saturday. Is that true?
Yeah, that's correct. We were watching the games.
That's right. we were watching the game. So
I'm wrong. It was not 0 for 12. It was 0 for 13.
Oh, I thought you were about to throw a 1 for 12 in there, and we had to take that all back.
I added one on the other column.
We were this close Spencer, to recording the segment again.
Here. There's so much frustration. Like Cam Coleman, who top 3 receiver in college football. I think he's the second best, but whatever. Like, he's good, right? We all agree on that. 8 targets for 18 yards. It's gross. This offense doesn't make any sense.
Can I go back to something previously?
Yeah,
I just like to point. No, it's good. I bring you on the show to give the good people of Locked On College Football an idea of how Auburn fans are feeling. The word of the day is frustration. It's frustration with Freeze going forward. I'd just like to point out that I was dubbed an Auburn hater for pointing out after the Baylor game, hey, Jackson Arnold still doesn't look great throwing the ball. You can't just run up and down the field for 300 yards once you get into SEC play. Here we are, and that's played itself out. Would you like to offer an apology to me on behalf of Auburn Nation, Zach, or how should we do this?
Because here's my thing, like, can you get 300 yards every week on the ground? No, whatever. But I do think there's a solid chance Auburn wins if they make the running game a priority over the last 2 games.
Which you and I talked about going into the game. As man, kind of looks like they're good at this.
Yeah. Yeah. So like while you were technically correct, and I will give that to you, but if Auburn goes into it with that mindset that they had against Baylor, like goodness gracious, I think they win on Saturday. And I think it's a lot closer against Oklahoma.
Going forward for Auburn, when you look at this stretch before the season, I think for Auburn fans, it was reasonable to expect a split, hope for 2-0, but understand a split is okay. 0-2, I think, is perfectly reasonable for Auburn fans to say, when you go 0-2 in that stretch, I know they were close games. I know they were both on the road, Texas A&M off a bye. That's tough. In year 1 or even year 2, I think 0-2 in the stretch can be forgiven. In year 3, I'm sorry, it can't. There's too much talent on the field for Auburn. They have recruited way too well for them to just not be able to move the ball offensively. And this was my concern with Hugh Freeze going with Jackson Arnold coming out of the transfer portal window. It was, hey, this is still a developmental guy, and you are in a pressure season. And now he's up against it 0-2 in conference play.
Yeah, yeah. And I had Auburn going 8-4 going into the season, and I had them losing these 2 games and Georgia. I had them losing these 3 in a row and then winning out and then losing to Bama. So I had them losing these games and still getting to 8-4. But the reason I'm frustrated is what it looks like. Like, that matters. I feel better about this team if they lose this game by 6 points, but it's 30-36 or something like that, because at least with the defense, like, I trust DJ Durkin. I trust that he's going to be able to do all that. And also A&M scores that many points on everybody. If you would have told me going into this that A&M's going to score 16 points on Auburn, I'm like, oh, Auburn exposes them. Oh, this is going to be a huge win. I think you would have said the same thing. Like,
if you're in
what's not an
a road game against a top 10 team that the last time they played a good team in Notre Dame, maybe not a great one, but a good one on the road, they went for 40. You hold them to 16 points on their home field off a bye, 100%. 100% you should win that game. And if you told Auburn fans that going in, they'd probably feel like, oh, we only have to get 17? Like, you couldn't put up 17 points in a football game with a freak of nature on the perimeter in Cam Coleman. Like, that deserves insane amounts of criticism, because it looks like the same thing. It looks like the same I don't see what Auburn fans have to be encouraged by with the offense right now. I really don't.
That's part of it. That's part of it. Now, do I think Hugh Freeze could pivot the offensive structure? I'm talking about the staff. Like, could they structure it differently to where maybe he gives up play calling, or maybe he's more involved in the offensive meetings, or he's like, look, I'm going to call plays, but instead of just going up and looking sad and angry and frustrated himself after every game at a press conference, maybe he says, you know what? Like, he always says we should run the ball more. It's like, maybe actually just do it. Maybe you actually just run the ball more. You had Jarquez Hunter last year. You kept saying, yeah, we got to get Jarquez. Or against Oklahoma, it's like, yeah, Jarquez looked tired. It's like, what? He touched it 12 times. I'm sure he's still got more juice in him. Jeremiah Cobb's been fantastic. Damari Austin against Baylor was fantastic. He missed some time because of his shoulder. Let's just use what Auburn is good at and what Jackson Arnold's comfortable with, because he's not interested in throwing the football. Like, that's become clear. He wants to hold on to it. He cherishes it. Doesn't want to turn it over, but he also doesn't want to put it in the air.
You know who Hugh Freeze needs to study the game tape for? I think I've mentioned this before. I made this comparison.
Who? What?
The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Georgia Tech is tertiarily, if that's a word, interested in throwing the ball. They want to run it first with their quarterback, then they want to run it with their running backs, and frankly, then they want to run it with their receivers before they want to pass. I feel like that's what Auburn should be doing here. I want to get you out on this, Zach. How many wins does Hugh Freeze need to have a job at Auburn next year?
I don't know.
It's a tough question. Tough question.
It depends on what it looks like. Like if you get to 7 wins and it feels the same way, I don't know. Because I think you lose players. I think you lose recruits. There's got to be some sort of hope instilled. But like if you lose to Georgia, and then, I mean, right now I don't think I would pick Auburn to beat Missouri, but you could beat Arkansas.
No, Missouri's a much better football team.
You could beat Kentucky. You could beat Mercer. And so then it's like, all right, like, are you going to beat Vanderbilt right now? I don't think so. And then Alabama's the other one. So like that puts you at 6.
Yeah. That's tough. I don't think.
But it's like, does beating Vanderbilt save your job? We're talking about Auburn here.
You got to look at Vanderbilt differently. That's a 5-0 team that's featured on College Game Day this week, and justifiably so.
Pavia.
I completely agree. We're at the point where Zach is praising Diego Pavia, who has ripped his heart out of his stomach before.
It's a great story, man.
It is.
And like, I listened to him a few
awesome.
times at media days over the summer. Like,
he's great.
He makes college football better. Diego Pavia makes college football better.
He's a fun guy to root for. Zach Blackerby, Locked On Auburn. Great, as always. BYU, I don't know if they're great. They let me down. Maybe that doesn't matter, Cougar fans. First, this episode brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system that you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a deadline or anything like that. What you'll love about Quo, formerly known as OpenPhone, is it lets you share your team's phone number in one place and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. That is how you want to move your business forward. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. All I needed for a winning week with my best bets for what feels like the first time in forever, yes, that's a Frozen reference, was BYU to cover late on Saturday night on the road at Colorado, -6.5. Now, they won the game. It wasn't exactly what BYU was looking for in this spot. They trailed 14-3 after the first quarter, which was odd, and also to me confirmed the massive mistake that Deion Sanders made in benching Caden Salter so early. Not that his numbers wound up being spectacularly good, but for BYU to have been down 14-3 there is representative of the fact that, yeah, Salter's the most capable guy in the room. I never thought he was great. I also didn't think he should have been benched just because of the Georgia Tech game, and he kind of was, and now they're back to him. And they almost picked up a really good win. BYU, on the other hand, almost suffered what would have been a pretty bad loss. And they found a way. Good teams find a way. But on my 5-point scale to assess how fans should feel after the game, this is no vibes for BYU. This is, okay, we didn't lose. At least there's that. Let's bury let's just go on. You got to just find a way. Late night, on the road, conference game, never easy. All right, just find a way to win. Now, BYU ran for over 200 yards in this game. That was one of the reasons I thought they would win comfortably, and it wasn't comfortable at all. And they had to come back. Now, it's a good sign for the Cougars that they were able to go on the road and come back in this spot, because when you think about a team that is really driven by its defense and being good at situational football and running it pretty well, and the offense is, just solid across the board, you don't think about a team that is built to come back from a deficit, but they did. They did. On the road, no less, in case I haven't mentioned that enough. So BYU wins the game 24-21. Later this week, you're going to see my first ever top 25 in college football. I don't know that I'm going to put BYU or Utah in it yet, because a significant portion of what I'm measuring to put a team inside the top 25 and what I think AP voters in the College Football Playoff Committee should value as well, and I think to an extent they do, not every voter is the same, is what have you accomplished up to that point? Not just what did we think of you before the season based on last season's results and the offseason that you had, but what have you actually done? If you look at BYU's schedule right now, it's pretty unimpressive. And the Cougars going forward could mess around and go to the Big 12 championship game. This is among the most wide open conferences in the country. Now, the SEC also looks incredibly wide open, and there's no clear favorite in the SEC. I don't think there's a clear favorite in the Big 12. Texas Tech is certainly number one. Do they feel like they're completely on another level? It's too early. The one game against Utah, yep, really impressive, because Utah, as West Virginia learned, is still a good football team. But BYU's schedule this year is a dominant win against Portland State, that is a bad FCS program, a dominant win against Stanford, who's whatever in the ACC, bottom tier, a comfortable win at East Carolina, and an uncomfortable win at Colorado, who I'm not that high on. So I'll just tell you right now, BYU will not be in my top 25 when it releases later this week. That can change. That can always change going forward. If you're one of those, it doesn't matter, the polls, it's too early in the season, hard to argue with that. If that's what your mindset is, I'm just not going to try and change your mind. I know what the value of the polls is on a weekly basis, but once they play at Arizona, I think we'll have a better idea. Now, Arizona didn't have a very good weekend either. They had a big opportunity, and Iowa State reminded us, oh, yep, the Cyclones are indeed a Big 12 championship contender, because I watched them go to the Big 12 championship game last year, and I think they have a lot of the same traits of last year's team. And in fact, I know that they do, because they have a lot of the same players from last year's team. So for the Big 12, I don't think there's a team that's widely separated. As much as I like Texas Tech, I would still have them power rated number one. And for those watching on YouTube, I'll throw up my preseason power rankings, which are just that. Preseason power rankings: Texas Tech, Arizona State, Kansas State, Iowa State, and Baylor at 5. I have BYU too low, probably at 10, but everything else I feel pretty good about, quite frankly. I mean, Kansas State, of course, is hey, Kansas State won over the weekend. Let's give Kansas State their flowers. They beat UCF. Woo, woo. Yeah, Kansas State. I mean, if they go on an improbable run, sure, Kansas State could go to the Big 12 championship game. I just don't see that happening with the caliber of football they're playing. But, across the league, what we're seeing that makes the conference so much fun is also kind of the drawback of something I've discussed with this conference for quite a while. Going back to when this channel first became Locked On College Football in January of 2024. That the Big 12, looks like a one-bid league. I haven't come off of that stance yet, because Arizona State, I thought they would, picked up a win against TCU. Arizona State is not going unbeaten in conference play. They just aren't. They have won by the exact same score to begin league play, 27-24. They play at Utah next week. I like Utah in that spot. Even though the last time I picked Utah to win a home game, it didn't go particularly well. But they've still got to play Texas Tech. They've still got to play Iowa State. And then they've got the duel in the desert to end the regular season as well. I'm at a point with Arizona State right now where I like them. I don't love them. The only team in the Big 12 I could say I love is Texas Tech. I like Iowa State. I'm still... And I liked what I saw against Arizona. That is a good vibes win, because Arizona has been playing some good ball. But there's just all this kind of middling play in the Big 12. It's okay. BYU goes and struggles to a win at Colorado. All right, you get the outcome you're looking for. But are you feeling ecstatic with the way that they played? No, you're just happy that they avoided a disaster. And TCU had a chance because they were in the top 25, I think deservedly so, and Arizona State should be back in there now. But, Houston was on the road Friday night at a bad Oregon State team and should have lost, but the Beavers are literally incapable of snapping the ball and kicking it in a number of capacities without a complete and utter disaster occurring. That's just not something that they can do. So I like Houston, but it's okay. I like BYU, but it's okay. I like Utah, but the Texas Tech game happened. I like Iowa State, and that's just kind of the common theme going up and down the league. Baylor beat Oklahoma State, and Utah blew out West Virginia, and Iowa State beat Arizona comfortably. And I just don't see anybody right now that has really elevated themselves to Texas Tech's level. I feel confident in the Red Raiders' ability to go to the Big 12 championship game. I predicted them to make it there before this season started. I don't feel great because that's the only signature performance that I've seen in the conference so far. And don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying watching that. I'm not going to stop watching the Big 12 because, they're only going to get one team into the playoff. I have no idea who that team is going to be. No idea. Absolutely no clue. Yeah, Texas Tech is the favorite right now. We're 4 or 5 games into the season, depending on whether you've had a bye week or not. There's still an eternity of college football to be played. And in this conference in particular, I think we're going to be in a very similar spot as last season. By the way, I don't know if there was a bigger loser in the Big 12 over the weekend than Kansas. Kansas 1-1 in the Big 12 because they blew a late lead to Cincinnati at home. To Cincinnati? Oh, man. Look, it's one thing to be on the road at Missouri, who I think is a really good team, and to have had the early lead and fail to finish the job in Columbia. That's one thing. But man, at home, your defense falling apart. Kansas, another team that I can see making the Big 12 championship game, probably not with an early loss to Cincinnati. They play UCF on the road this week. They should win that game. They've still got to play Texas Tech. They've still got to play at Iowa State. They still have to play Utah. So this league is just like the old Pac-12, frankly. They're just cannibalizing themselves. They're just beating up on one another over and over and over again. And so far, I have not been overly impressed with anyone outside of the Texas Tech one game, and I wonder about Baron Morton's health going forward and whether Hammond can just be that guy that he was on that particular day throughout the course of the season. Maybe he's that dude. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the Big 12 from this past week. Fun league. It's just kind of, it's just, I can't quite put my finger on it. It's just like there's just a lot of fun football that in the back of your mind. Don't know how. Like Arizona State's 2-0 in Big 12 play. They don't feel super sustainable right now. They really, really don't. They have got to figure out how to get off to a better start. But, Colorado or TCU, one of those teams will get their first Big 12 win this weekend. I think the game of the week in the Big 12 they'll talk about later this week is Texas Tech and Houston. I think that's a really fun matchup. That's Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So we'll stick around for that, of course. Let's go over to the SEC and the ACC as well. More thoughts on Alabama because I kind of knocked the Tide down a couple of pegs, even though they beat Georgia, relative to where their fans probably were. I need to make a concession. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer that you just simply don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And that's one way to get $300 in bonus bets. Another way is maybe, just fade my picks every week. I am well under 500. It is not a good start. I have to come back. I don't have as much time to try and scrap my way back to get over 500 on the year as frankly I would like. FanDuel's given me all the information I need. FanDuel's got the best odds, the best website to navigate for all this sort of stuff. So if you want to just get in on the action, try fading my picks every week. It's been a good thing to do so far. I thought I had something brewing last week when Virginia beat Florida State. Nope, went 2-3. I just keep finding ways to not get there. But if you think you can do better, hey, FanDuel is the place you want to go. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Check them out at FanDuel.com. I'm sure there are plenty of Alabama fans that would like to feel like the Tide are back after their win at Georgia, that this was the moment, this was the breakthrough, ended the winning streak and all this sort of stuff. Going into this game, I felt like Alabama had the formula to beat Georgia because I think from, a team profile standpoint, they're kind of similar to Tennessee, who I think is a good team. I think Alabama has figured out how to be a good team. Whether or not they figured out how to be a great team again that can go win the SEC remains to be seen. But hey, they don't have a conference loss yet. That first loss of the year was Florida State. Doesn't impact their ability to go to the SEC title game. And we know if you get there, you're automatically into the playoff. And that's what Kalen DeBoer has to do to save his job. If he does not make the playoff this year, I do not believe he will or should be the head coach at Alabama for 2026. But that conversation is onto the back burner. It is not, you didn't hit the stop button on the VCR, you hit the pause button. And you're going to come back to it another time. So let's go to this game against Georgia, which relative to how I'm sure plenty of Alabama fans felt, I didn't speak to them all personally, I downplayed. I said, well, this is a good win. This is a good vibes win. It is not the highest vibes. Even though it was a huge game, you ended Georgia's home winning streak, you start SEC play 1-0. I watched this game and thought, what if Kirby Smart kicks the field goal and that game goes to overtime, which he should have done? What if Georgia doesn't drop another touchdown pass? And I know Ryan Williams had a big drop in this game. That's been a problem a bit so far this season. It just felt like Alabama played well enough. Didn't feel like they played great. But there are two things that I try to be honest when I come on this show as best as I can. Two things that I did not mention in my initial reaction to this particular game that should be brought up. Number one, Alabama was 13 of 19 on third down in this game. Now, you'll hear a lot of coaches correctly tell you that third down success on either side of the ball is primarily, not entirely, but primarily a function of what you do on first and second down, rather, because 3rd and 3 is a lot easier for an offense than 3rd and 8, which is a better spot for the defense to be in. So when you look at a box score and see, wow, this team dominated on third down, or if you're watching a game and you're seeing, okay, this team is just getting on, keeping their offense on the field over and over and over again, it could be one of two things. It's probably both of those things. The reason that is particularly encouraging for Alabama fans in this spot is that on the road, they were looking like what Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb did to the Pac-12, RIP, for their 2 years in the conference up in Seattle. This was their hallmark. And they played plenty of close games. And they had a pocket passer at quarterback in Michael Penix. Now they've got Ty Simpson, who looked good again on Saturday on the road. You have to be encouraged by what Ty Simpson has done ever since that Florida State game and what the offensive line has been able to do. But one of the hallmarks of those great Washington teams, and one of the reasons, amongst many, that people felt, hey, this Kalen DeBoer guy can really coach. I mean, he is a darn good. He and Ryan Grubb are just incredible. They were good on third down in the biggest games all the time. And situationally, they were really good. And that's something that I've pointed out in the past has been a problem for Kalen DeBoer's Alabama teams. They haven't been good situationally. They haven't kept the offense on the field, and other teams have been way too easily been able to keep their offenses on the field. Of course, that doesn't have to do with Ryan Grubb, the offense coordinator. That has to do with Kane Womack and the defensive staff. Oh, look, Georgia was 2 of 8 on third down in this game and 0 for 1 on fourth down. Both teams missed their only fourth down attempt in this one. So that's a really encouraging sign, number one, that I didn't acknowledge previously. And once I realized that, I went, yeah, that's kind of how this looked. That's kind of why we thought this would translate. That's what really good coaching looks like. So you can execute in those spots. Okay, that's number one. Number two, another criticism that has been correctly made of Kalen DeBoer's Alabama team this year and last year is that they commit a lot of penalties. And that proves to be really costly. And it seems like they commit penalties in really untimely situations, and it thwarts offensive drives. It keeps drives alive. In this game, on the road, 4 penalties for 16 yards. Those two things tell me a lot about the Crimson Tide. Now, again, I still feel like though Alabama put on a much better performance on Saturday night in Athens, that they're still a ways away from where they are supposed to be. Saturday night was a step in the right direction. But if Scotty Scheffler should be shooting even par in the first round of the U.S. Open, and he's 4 over at the turn, and Kalen DeBoer is Scotty Scheffler in this analogy, he did not make back-to-back eagles by beating Georgia. He made a birdie, which is great, because he didn't make a birdie on the front 9. Now he's got one. You got to start somewhere. Most often, it starts with 1. Now you need to make it 2, because they've got game day coming to town this week with Vanderbilt in your own stadium for college game day. That's, you know what? Round of applause. Round of applause for Clark Lee and the Vanderbilt Commodores, man. They are number 16 in the country. They deserve every inch of that ranking. They will probably wind up being slightly higher in my rankings that I will release at some point this week. Vanderbilt is 5-0 and a good football team with a good quarterback who's really easy to root for. And then they're going to Tuscaloosa to try and win their second straight against Kalen DeBoer. Wild stuff. It's wild, wild stuff, but it's great. Alabama still has to play Vanderbilt. At Missouri, that's a hard game. Those are their next 2 matchups. You've got Tennessee at home for the 3rd Saturday in October, at South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, who at number 5 is overrated, by the way, East Illinois, and Auburn, who doesn't look very good, as we talked about earlier on the show. So they've made the first birdie that they need, but they have to make 3 more to get back to even par. 10-2 in the regular season, that's where it should be. Now, if Alabama goes 9-3, 2 SEC losses, but they get into the conference championship game, they win it and get the automatic berth, that'll be enough. If I were Alabama, I would feel a heck of a lot better if going into the SEC title game, you were only worried about winning to play a worse team seeding-wise, because we've got straight seeding now finally in college football, and not win or we're not into the college football playoff. I'll just throw that out there. I wanted to close with a couple thoughts on the ACC because Alabama does factor into this discussion. Remember when they lost to Florida State and Florida State got ranked inside the top 10? Deservedly so. Because, well, they beat a preseason top 10 team. That's how this should work. Did you see what happened to Florida State on Friday night? Hope you did. I had a reaction show up to it. It was quite the game. They lost to Virginia. Epic field storming, incredible vibes in Charlottesville, and Chandler Morris is out there, former TCU and Oklahoma. I think it was Oklahoma, North Texas. I don't even know. He's been to a bunch of different schools, bottom line. And he beats top 10 Florida State. Landmark win for Tony Elliott's team in the ACC. How does that Alabama loss look now? Because last week, entering Friday night, it was, well, they lost, but look, see, Florida State's been impressive since they beat Alabama, so Florida State was just really, really good. What if Alabama gets into an at-large resume discussion? You suddenly have to worry about what happens with Florida State going forward. And the perception of the ACC, not good. Why? Because the ACC, not off to a great start. Anybody think Virginia is a serious player? Maybe they're about to shock the world after beating Florida State. I suspect not, but hey, I've been wrong before. But now the ACC is working its way into Big 12 territory. Who's your at-large team going to be? Louisville's undefeated. They might be they and UNLV are the worst 4-0 teams in all of college football. Louisville and the Rebels, they have scraped by. They have not played great ball all the time. Like, their record looks good. They're not very good. Georgia Tech, possibly. That's entirely possible. I mean, sure, at the moment they don't have a win over a current ranked team because Clemson has fallen off the face of the earth. I'm fascinated to see. Just keep your eye on this dynamic as the year goes on. Georgia Tech could be the reason the ACC gets the second team into the playoff. I think we would all love to watch Haynes King play in a college football playoff game. Dude would absolutely, positively put it on the line. No matter what, he does it every week. It'd be awesome to see in a playoff environment. But the ACC, Virginia beating Florida State, and the Seminoles losing that game, let's see how they respond. Because if they don't respond in a big way, suddenly it's going to be another knock against the ACC. And in a 12-team playoff, in a year where Notre Dame probably doesn't get in because they lost their first 2 games of the year, you could see 10, well, you have the group of 5 in there as well. You could see 9 Big Ten SEC teams in the playoff. That is not unthinkable whatsoever. It is not an unreasonable thing. Georgia Tech's got to keep winning for the sake of the ACC. And maybe Florida State too. Maybe the ACC gets 3 teams in. I don't know. We'll see. That's it for today's show. Another big moment on Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present the College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.